The presentation at the Township Building, I think, was an opportunity for the, what I'll call, new Board of Directors of the Newtown Corporation to present a plan for the future. And as anyone who has been involved with a nonprofit knows from experience, that begins with a mission statement. And I said that evening, and I'll say again tonight, that the first thing I thought I would see walking in, if there was a screen in use, would be the mission statement. Because unless the hard work has been put into creating those several sentences, maybe a paragraph at most, then there isn't a shared sense of what the mission is. And if there is no mission clearly stated, then you can't communicate to others and tell them what you're going to do. There was no mission statement that night, and for me, that was very disturbing. I had been on the board of the Newtown Corporation going back some time, and when I was on, there was a concern for the changing mission at that time and creating a new one. What I heard at the joint meeting was that still has not been determined. So the absence of a mission statement gives me great concern, notwithstanding Christmas parades and what I'll call the general description of sentiment on helping the community in various ways. All that's well and good, but it's not a mission. However, even assuming a mission statement had been stated, the second thing which is absolutely required was not present either in the presentation, and that's strategic planning. If you don't have strategic planning, you cannot map out the future for the nonprofit going forward. And it was very clear that the current board has not done the strategic planning. Not mentioned that night, but also familiar to anybody who's worked with a nonprofit, is a third element, and that is a budget. That is to say, what are you going to do in the coming year with the dollars, and in year 2, and in year 3, and in year 4, and in year 5? We didn't see any kind of budget like that either. And those are really the three elements, I think, that had to be presented at the joint meeting in order for anyone who is a supporter, not just the borough and township, but anyone, to sense that there is a future that is worth pursuing. I didn't hear that. And while there were many references to the Christmas parade, a Christmas parade does not an organization make. I think you need those three elements, and they're just not there. In fairness, it's also sometimes the case that a nonprofit can get together, especially a new board of directors, and have good intentions, but just not have the skill necessary to do what has to be done. And that's important to perhaps understand. Intentions don't make a successful nonprofit. A lot of hard work, and yes, sometimes some specific expertise has to be applied. And if it's not there, then the nonprofit eventually just will not succeed and may fail very quickly. Which brings me to what I took away that evening, and that is that from the standpoint of being an elected official of a borough that has historically supported this group, I have tremendous difficulty seeing a future with tax monies going to that purpose. I think a viable nonprofit has to follow certain time-honored, very clear requirements, and if it doesn't, it is just not going to succeed. If somebody wants to do that privately with their own money, that's up to them. But when it comes to tax dollars, I think we have an additional layer of responsibility in looking at what the future holds. And in looking at that presentation, I just didn't see it. It's not a club. It's not a group that's putting a parade on. It is a nonprofit chartered in Pennsylvania that started out with a very serious purpose and accomplished the purpose. So I posed to my fellow council members the question, which is, do we want to see it continue? Because I'm not sure I see a future there, at least at this point. And what concerns me greatly is if the future is so uncertain, then all the things that have been done to date may be jeopardized, particularly with respect to the financial condition of the organization. Newtown Corporation currently has assets, I think, something in excess of $100,000. It's been supported by tax dollars from the township and the borough for quite a few years, and it has derived funding from other sources, including the Brewfest. It's a very complex annual operation. And my concern is that the future does not have clarity, does not have planning, and I really, really am troubled by having the assets which are currently there lost over time, because the future just does not show that they're going to be applied to good purposes, clear purposes, and that's very troubling. In looking at that presentation also and doing a little research afterwards, there are several things which struck me when I looked at what are the characteristics of a nonprofit when it may come to the end and should be dissolved. And a couple of them really stood out for me, and I just wanted to spend a moment, if I might, on them. And the number one was widespread confusion about the direction, emphasis, and philosophy of the organization. And to me, I think we have that by the presentation alone. The second is the departure of key board and staff. We've had that certainly with the board turnover, particularly in the last year, and we've had that with the departure of the executive director in December. Regardless of what you may have thought about the JDNC or the Newtown Corp as a successor, it was run as a very professional nonprofit organization. And it had all those things I mentioned up front, those 3 requirements. It does not have anyone doing those now. No one with that experience and no one with that kind of responsibility. The last point on signs of a nonprofit that may have seen its day is reputation. One of the concerns expressed by Borough Council and indeed people in the community and our own board members on the Newtown Corporation was the manner in which things were handled in December with the termination of the executive director. Nonprofits have a very difficult time, in my mind, developing a good reputation, but they can lose it very quickly by 1 or 2 events. And I think that last characteristic of nonprofits in trouble, that being reputation problems, is with us now. And I look at all these characteristics I just mentioned and say to myself, how can I in good faith see this go forward? And I suggest to you, we may have seen the time come when it is not only possible, but prudent to have not just our involvement in the Newtown Corporation cease, but also for the Newtown Corporation to cease in an orderly way and by the dissolution which is provided for in its own bylaws. The very last bylaw, the very last article, simply says in 1 sentence, if the corporation dissolves, the funds there may be distributed to the local governments. If we feel in our heart of hearts that the mission of the Newtown Corporation has been achieved with the streetscape, and we truly believe that where it's going is not defined and may lead to nothing more than money being spent without purpose, then it may be time for us to take that next action and act through our board of directors to seek a dissolution of the corporation. And that's about as blunt as I can be about it, having heard the presentation at the joint meeting. I think the folks who did that at the Township Building really tried. Some of them are here this evening. But that's not enough. It's a very complex organization. It's got to be done the right way. And we have a special responsibility in deciding whether or not it goes forward or not. But as I say, for my own purposes, I sense that we've reached that point where the mission's been accomplished, and it may very well be prudent to advance a cause, seek a dissolution, have those
turn to the township and the borough for a purpose not unlike the Newtown Corporation, but we'll decide that. And I think I've spoken long enough.
The question I have is I don't think we can proceed as a solo act. We're in bed together with the township ourselves, and the impression I left with from our last meeting was that they were in a go-forward mode. I guess the thing I find disappointing, going back to the meeting we had a year ago, Mike, when you were still on the board, we had made similar suggestions that we come together as a committee, and you chose to make your decision from a conflict of interest standpoint, but perhaps if you had stayed on as liaison, we might have a better feel today about the Newtown Corporation, because I don't think we did a good job as council in working with the Newtown Corporation over the last 12 months. And I guess it's shame on us. We didn't do the kind of job we should have done. I know Mark was not able to make as many of the meetings as he should have made, and I think we were kind of flying blind. And that's an unfortunate set of circumstances, but we shouldn't over-penalize an organization for our failures. With respect to asset recovery, I really don't know what that last line means, whether we can recover all of the money we've contributed, which is probably in the vicinity of $30,000 or $35,000, and the township has contributed a heck of a lot more. But I don't think we, as a standalone entity, without talking to the liaison or representative from the township, can force this organization to dissolve. I think we can extract ourselves in a fashion that we may deem acceptable to this council, but I don't think we can force them to take the kind of action you're suggesting. I'm not the lawyer, you are. But I think before we make any kind of motions, we need to sit down and review it with our solicitor, review it with Newtown Township, and then go forward. I don't think we can do anything that radical on our own, and I may be wrong.